Never pitch landlords like this if you're trying to get Airbnbs. Guys, in this video, I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, the ugly, why we should never pitch a landlord like I'm going to do. And I'm going to show you both renditions, the good, and I'm going to show you what most people do, which is the bad. And getting a landlord to say yes is not easy if you don't have the key factors, which I'm going to give you right now, so that when you talk to the landlord, you're going to get yeses and landlords eating out of your hand versus hello, they hung up on you. So let's first start by this. My name is Investor Mike. I've been doing this for about 7 years now. I am the #1 Airbnb coach in America, and I will tell you this, okay? You don't become #1 by not knowing what you're doing. You come #1 because you solved the biggest problems in Airbnb. Let me share with you those are. Just to be transparent, because I'll tell you this, most people will bullshit you. I'm going to be transparent. Most people fail. In this space, I'm telling you the failure rate in Airbnb arbitrage, or if you're purchasing a property, whatever, if you're Airbnb, the reality is most people fail. Now, I have solved the two biggest reasons of why people fail, and I'm going to share with you what they are now. But let me preface and say this. The #1 thing that I'm going to tell you today, and you're going to want to stay all the way to the end, is this. Take a second to subscribe to the channel, because I come to you every day, no fluff, all real stuff on how to get your first Airbnb in 30 days or less. And the only person right now that can tell you and can help you in that short period of time, and that I'm going to share with you at the end of this video, that's why you need to stay all the way to the end, of how I'm actually going to be able to help you get your first rental Airbnb in 30 days or less. But that being said, what most people do is this. They go look at yard signs. You guys are driving around. It's called driving for dollars, right? You go through your city, right? And then you see a sign that says for rent by owner. You're like, this is a great area. I've lived in Chicago my whole life. I think it would be brilliant. So we can start an Airbnb here. Or you got a friend who says, I got a rental property. Why don't we just throw that on Airbnb? Or you got a family member, Uncle Joe, who tells you, look, you can take my property. I'd consider you, Airbnb in it. Okay? All right? If you guys do that and you don't use what I'm going to tell you next, just consider yourself part of the very, very, very high percentage of people that fail on Airbnb. Now, why am I telling you that people fail? Because anybody that tells you that you're going to be sitting on the beach drinking a margarita in Cabo next month, I want you to run as fast as you can the other way, okay? This is what decimates most people's minds, because online you got all these social media gurus, right, who are standing in front of a Lambo or in front of a jet. They're 23 years old talking about I'm a millionaire Airbnb. And it may be true, but the reality is this. It's a business. And if you treat it like a business, you will be successful. If you treat it like I'm just going to be a millionaire tomorrow, you got the wrong mindset, okay? I'm going to tell you something. Looking at signs driving around called driving for dollars, it's not a good way. It's 2024, guys. We're not going to drive around and waste time and money and gas in our car. #2, we're not going to go to a friend or a family member unless we've done our due diligence and research, not only in the area, but the numbers. You guys know what the most important thing that I'm going to tell you right now is? If you get into Airbnb and you do not have paid software, listen to what I'm telling you, do not get into the space. If you want to be part of the very, very, very high failure rate and not part of the success rate like my students are in, then I want you to do something. I want you to get into Airbnb and just pick any random property and say, this is good because I've lived here and I know the area. And don't check the numbers, don't check the data, just go ahead and get into this space. That's a very, very sure way of a failure in this business. My job is to mitigate the risk of you failing and picking the wrong property in the wrong market and it costing you money every month as opposed to the other way around. Background, education, these things play a part. Work ethic. I don't know who you are yet, but I will tell you this. If you follow the blueprint in which my students are following, it just works. Okay? Now, let's get into this, because what is the software? The software is a fancy way of saying this. AirDNA. AirDNA.co is a software. You can get the free version, which is like getting into a car with no brakes or a plane with one engine. Okay? Or you can get the very high quality corporate level executive plan they have, which is about $200-300 a month. And that will give you accurate numbers. That being said, my students do not have to pay for it. It is just part of working with me. But I'm telling you this, if there's one thing you took away from this video, it is this. Do not get into Airbnb without paid software. I don't care if you know how to pitch landlords, if you feel like you're a sales, you're a negotiation. I don't care if you can negotiate people from jumping off a ledge. Listen to me. Do not get into Airbnb if you don't know how to use this paid software, or if you don't get it. I'm telling you, It's the reason people fail. It's called property and market research. And if you don't do that, you're gonna have a very hard time paying the landlord. And the reason is because if you're not getting enough guests that show up, you gotta use that guest money to pay the landlord and utilities. And if you don't have enough guests showing up, guess what that means? It's coming out of your pocket every month because you didn't understand how to do property and market research with paid software. So don't get into a plane with one engine and don't get into a car with no brakes. Just get the right software and understand how to use it, and the game changes. By the way, that's airdna.co. And again, my students get that just working with me. It's free. I pay $2,000 a year. You guys will get it as part of working with me if we do decide to work together. That being said, it is a must. Okay, now let me tell you about the pitch. Okay, I'm going to give you the way not to do it, which is what most people do, and then I'm going to give you the way to do it and how we're going to build a relationship with the owner and not in person. We're not going to meet people in person. We're not going to go meet the landlord face to face to pitch the landlord, okay? Some of you guys will never have to pitch over the phone. I'll explain that in a second. Some of you guys will never have to say a word to a landlord in the beginning to get your first couple properties, okay? I didn't become number one by not figuring out the two reasons most people fail. Number one, property market research. Wrong location, wrong property, you're dead in the water. That means you don't have enough guests showing up, and that means that you're coming out of pocket to pay the landlord their rent every single month, and that is a failing formula, and I would never get into business with that mindset, okay? The other way is going landlords to get them to say yes, and I'm gonna promise you something. If you do this wrong, you're gonna spend a lot of time and energy calling landlords back to back to back to back. Even if you love the property and the numbers work, trying to get a landlord is what decimates the rest of the people, because how are you gonna get a landlord to say yes with what I'm about to share with you? First and foremost, we make a phone call, right? Even if you checked your numbers, you like the area, the numbers make sense, you call landlord, Mr. Landlord, I love your property. My family and I we've been here our whole lives, and you know, we're very interested in renting the property. We're ready to rent it, but here's the thing: we would like to do Airbnb. We would like to run it as an Airbnb in your house. We're going to be good because we're going to clean the property, make sure it's clean, and we're ready to pay the first month end deposit. We have a couple pets here and there. Some people smoke, but we'll make sure we don't bother the neighbors because we'll be on the back porch. And I'll sign a 1-year lease with you right now if you let me Airbnb your property. No, stop it. You're gonna spend so much time, energy trying to get a landlord to say yes. Number one, did you hear what my pitch was? First thing I started with is uncertainty, no confidence. And I get it, guys. You don't have sales experience. And I'm gonna tell you, in this game, if you don't have sales experience and negotiation experience, it's the first skill you should learn. Because if you're on the phone with a landlord, you gotta convince them to allow you to do Airbnb in their property as opposed to going with just a traditional tenant, okay? So you gotta learn sales and negotiation. The second thing I said was Airbnb. Airbnb is the most well-known short-term rental platform, but it's also all over the news. And it had some accidents where a kid ate fentanyl by accident, right? And was an overdose. It had people drowning in pools, right? And so Airbnb got this big bubble on NBC, ABC, and literally has destroyed its name to what most people think is a problem in their property. All they heard was, you're gonna party in my property, you're gonna trash the place. You're not gonna make your payments. That's what they heard in that pitch, okay? So instead, this is the way we do it. Mr. Landlord, love your property. Super, super excited, and we've been in the area for a very long time. Here's a little bit about what we do. We're a corporate leasing company. We have travel nurses and doctors and chiropractors and business professionals, and sometimes they stay for a week. And Mr. Landlord, sometimes we get some of our clients to stay for 2 to 3 months, like a travel nurse. But the big difference that we do, Mr. Landlord, from what a traditional tenant is we keep your property in for sale condition, the entire lease. And that's because we have a professional cleaning crew that comes in once a week to deep clean the property, and a maintenance crew for anything small. We're not even gonna bother you unless it's under $1,000. Like if the roof goes bad or maybe the air conditioner goes out, we'll call you. Other than that, we're gonna take care of that ourselves with our professional maintenance crew. We promise to be the best tenants ever, and to show you we're serious, let me tell you this. We've got no pets, we've got no smokers, and generally no little kids. We're not going to paint the back bedrooms green and pink for the different kids. Again, we're going to keep the property in immaculate condition. So if you ever decided to sell the property, you can instantly sell it because of its for sale condition. Now, we would like to do a 2-year lease with you instead of a 1-year lease to really show you that we are serious. I would ask you that we can have a few weeks in the front end of free rent so that we can get the place ready for a guest. But I will sign a 2 or 3 year lease with you today and put a deposit down. Do we have a deal? That is how you pitch it. Now, let me say this because I had a couple people on TikTok say, well, that's lying. That's like you jumping into bed day one with a woman you're trying to marry or build a solid relationship with. We just don't do it. So no, it's not lying. What it is you're not saying the word Airbnb up front. Okay? You're gonna build the relationship just like you would with a woman. I'm using this analogy because someone said, well, that's lying. No, it's not lying, okay? What you're doing is you're building a relationship first. That does not mean that they're not gonna know that you're gonna Airbnb their property. They're just not gonna know on the first call. Then we're gonna build a relationship with them. We're gonna talk to them. And then, guess what they're gonna sign? A legal document that says, Mr. Landlord, you understand that we're not gonna live in the property and you're allowing us to put it on short-term rental platforms like Airbnb, vrbo, bookings.com, Furnish Finder. And guess what? Mr. Landlord signs this addendum legally agreeing to let us Airbnb his property. But do we say it in the beginning? No. This is why you guys are getting hammered, because you're saying it in the beginning. The other thing, and let me just be clear about this, do not go to apartments first. Go single family house or a townhouse as your first, second, or even third Airbnb. Reason is, when you go to pitch a business, which is an apartment complex, you are required to have your financials, tax returns, and business credit put in place. If you do not have business credit, financials, tax returns in place with a Paydex score of 80 or higher, then you need to go to single family house. Because single family house, we're pitching John, who is a one single owner of a property. It's much more likely that he's going to allow us to use our corporation LLC, not verify our credit, not verify our background, and you're allowed to get in much easier than going to a business who's going to do all that, scrutinizing of you and your business credit. So this is why when you see online people are saying, hey, go to apartments, what they're not telling you is they have business credit set up, they've got the financials put in, they've got their tax returns, and a lot of people have that. And if you want to go to apartments and get multiple units at a time, that's called corporate leasing, which is a completely different video that I've done on showing you guys how to do that. But for the purpose of this video, if it's your first time, maybe second or third property, go single family, pitch John, who's a homeowner, and much more likely with the script I just gave you, use that pitch, okay? Now, even if you use that pitch, what if John came back and said, okay, cool, look, I'm interested, but here's what I would like. I would like your website. I would like how many Airbnbs you have. Give me a few references I can contact. And then, we can have a conversation about moving forward with leasing my property. What do you say there? That's what you say. I've solved the two biggest problems in this game. Number one, property market research. Number two, the landlord calls. Message me the word Airbnb in comments if you want to see how I do it, where you don't have to get on the phone and negotiate anything without any credibility, no background, no Airbnbs, and no references, no website, etc. How I'm going to take care of that for you. God bless, be safe. Put the word Airbnb if you want help. Let's get this done. And I'll have you have your first property in 30 days or less.